This is meteorologist Mark Molnar with a quick weather update for North America. Today is February 12th, 2012. Let's get right into the current map here. Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia are continuing to get this overrunning precipitation north of the warm front, continuing to cause heavy rains with all these flood warnings. Anywhere you see these green boxes, these green counties here, this is where we're really getting into a lot of this pattern of training, which we call usually occurs with tropical weather systems, but can occur north of warm fronts, such as this warm front across the Gulf of Mexico. North of that, that's where we're seeing a little bit of a snowstorm here in Oklahoma, and that, I will get into snowfall amounts with that. Up here in the northeast, things are quiet for the moment, and up here in the plains, things are also very quiet and cold. Here in the northwest, this is where we've got another approaching system that could affect the northwestern states here pretty shortly. So let's get right into this precipitation amounts with across the southeast here, but more importantly the snowfall amounts here in Oklahoma. First, we're going to take a look at the severe weather outlook. There's a threat this evening here, especially for Mardi Gras people here in New Orleans. And this could actually affect you here this evening. There's a tornado threat that's actually increasing here along the Gulf Coast, particularly for New Orleans this evening. We could have supercell thunderstorms here develop north of this warm front. Also, a squall line could develop south of this warm front, which could clip southern New Orleans and over to the panhandle here of Florida. So we're going to keep an eye on this red shading here this evening, especially since this evening is Mardi Gras here, and we're going to continue to watch that. But other than that, here, it's up here in northwest Oklahoma that we're getting the 3 to 6 inches of snow with locally higher amounts in excess of 6 inches here in the panhandle. So keep an eye on that. Other than that, this system's going to be heading towards the east. Let's take a look at liquid precip. Here in the northwest, a ½ an inch over the next 24 to 36 hours. And here in the south, it's mainly going to be confined to the Gulf Coast and over towards the Carolinas, and a little bit up here in the Mid-Atlantic, and I'll get into the reason why. Here is what we have for the NAO index here. This is actually, I'm starting to see it go negative here in the long term. So that could mean stormier conditions and a more blocking pattern, especially for the East Coast, and that does mean higher East Coast snowstorms. Let's take a look at the AO index. That's going to be all over the chart, bouncing positive and then negative. Usually when we see the AO index, the Arctic Oscillation, gyrate around like this, we usually see an increase of storminess and an increase in amplitude of the jet stream. Something we don't have this week. We have a very zonal flow, and let's take a look at that zonal flow pattern right now. We do have a little bit of a ridge in the west, but it's not the big ridge that you'd like to see digging out a trough here in the east. It's more of a zonal pattern in the east, and hence why we see these systems, clippers zipping across the north and southern stream systems zipping across the south. So that's the jet stream outlook. That will change probably next week with a more negative NAO. Let's take a look at the system that's expected to affect the mid-Atlantic region. This is where the low pressure, and my thinking hasn't really changed too much. I've shifted the low pressure slightly southward, and we'll see some of that snowfall pattern kind of north of this low pressure system. It's debatable, but 2 to 4 inches seems like the most we can get out of this system. In fact, we're going to be looking at temperatures here in northern New York State in the 40s. So it's going to be really hard to get significant snowfalls. You really have to get heavy precipitation falling into this to cool the column of air up from 2 kilometers down to the surface. So we're looking at a whole lot of snow. Some areas like Harrisburg, over to Lancaster, northern Baltimore, maybe the northern suburbs of Washington, D.C., over to Philadelphia, and northwest and central New Jersey could see the 2 to 4 inches, and 1 to 3 skirting the areas just in southern New England, Long Island, these areas. So we're not really looking at much in the way of snowfall in the weekend system. Most of the operational models are now indicating that this system is going to be well off the East Coast with an Alberta clipper here in the northeast, and you can see that depicted here. It's not really that impressive, but there are some secondary models that are kind of hinting that the low could be closer. So that's why I'm keeping a slight shading of white here for possible moderate snowfall accumulations here across parts of the Mid-South, Mid-Atlantic, in portions of New England. but I'm not looking for a widespread event with this. We'll keep an eye on that, but things could change as the models do flip-flop back and forth quite a bit this winter. So other than that, things are not looking very amazingly drastic or different from the way they have been the last several weeks, other than the fact that last week we had a blizzard in New England. Other than that, I'm meteorologist Mark Molnar. Like us on Facebook at MeteoMark. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Here's a 4-day forecast for my hometown viewers from Binghamton to Elmira and the northern tier counties of Pennsylvania.